Should we encourage them to take their masks off when they talk into the, I don't know if the computer's picking up
How well can you?
what they're going to be
I'll-
saying.
I'll wear my mask on the way up. When I get in front of it, I'll take it down my face.
Okay, well, I could barely hear John L, so,
You can barely hear me?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to have to shout, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, if you keep your mask on, you'll have to speak loudly so that the microphone can pick you up. You are all socially distanced, your chairs are 6 feet apart, so you can take off your mask if you feel comfortable. Okay?
I thought this was a photo.
If you're not too old.
Say what?
Okay.
Some old people worry about that.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to call the Quarry Commission regular meeting to order. Okay, I'd like to have a roll call from the left. Your left. That. All right. John L. Holly. We're all present except for Mark Boyes. And he's had to resign because he moved. He is no longer living in Garden Ridge. Okay. I'd like to have you all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't see any citizens here. Does anybody know of any? No signups or anything, so can I kind of just go by step 4 and keep moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The new business, approval of the minutes from March 9th. Has everyone had an opportunity to look over those minutes? We've had a few months.
Move for approval. Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes for March 9th. Thank you. And now to discussion. It's the monthly Hanson Quarry blasting analysis report by Vibertech and Quarry representatives.
Yeah, you need, yeah.
Okay, we should vote on the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None stated, so meeting minutes have been approved. Thank you. It's been a long time.
All right, everyone. Nicholas Wright here with Vibertech.
Can you turn off the microphone, please? Thank you.
Nicholas Wright here with Vibertech, here for what will be the eight-month data. I did include January and February in my presentations, just in case that needed to be overlapped at all. However, instead of giving a presentation over the entire 8 months, I kept to the bi-monthly rhetoric that we're used to. So I have 4 presentations, including January and February, to go over. So we'll be doing the Jan Feb, then another slide will be the March, April, and so on and so forth until we get to July. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. And also, I would just like to say personally, it feels good to be back. I didn't mind missing one meeting, but once it got into 2 and 3, I kind of missed the familiar faces. So,
Good.
very glad to be here.
Thank you.
I'll move on. Again, this is what I have here, January and February, just as an overlap now. I'll go over what our highest PPVs and our air overpressures. But the good thing to note in both January and February were there were no citizen concerns. So I'll just pass along just this information. The highest peak particle velocity for the month of January was a 0.078 inch per second recorded at the Holly residence. And that was on January 23rd at the base pit E face. And the highest air overpressure in the month of January was a 114 decibel reading on Holly on January 7th, and the shot was a combined south wall A. The highest peak particle velocity in February was a 0.23 inches per second, and that was recorded at Holly on the 25th of February on the base pit wall A, and the highest air overpressure was a 111 dB recorded at the Warden property line on February 28th at the Aggie Pit Wrap 1. And I guess if I click, do I have the ability to switch slide to slide?
Yeah, you should.
Oh, very good, okay. And once again, for both months, we can see we're plotting well below the USBM curve, our highest being our Holly reading. And here are our recorded air overpressure readings for both January and February. So the easiest of the 4 presentations, no citizen concerns. I assume that does it. Here we go. All right, moving on to March and April. In the month of March, our highest recorded PPV was a 0.215 inch per second recorded at the Holly residence on March 18th. That's a base pit W wall A. And our highest air overpressure reading was a 116 dB at the Holly residence, and that was on the 6th of March, south wall F, and we also had one of the same reading, a 116 dB, on the 17th of March on the south wall E. And our highest reading for April was a 0.2 inch per second, and that was recorded at Holly on April 7th. That's a bench pit wall A. And the highest air overpressure was a 112, and that was recorded at the city property line on the 16th of April, and that's an Aggie Pit ramp 4 shot. Again, we see when we plot to the USBM curve, we are all below and above board. And our air overpressures, nothing exceeding 120. Moving on to our citizens' comments. We do have several from Armando Diaz. We have chosen to analyze, like we've done in the past, Diaz concerns that are over a 4.5. So I've got this one here for Carl and Armando, are the next 2 that will be analyzed. On the 6th of April, Carl Schultz, he just simply said his house shook on the south wall G shot. And here we have our shot down here on south wall G, our Holly reading, our Schultz. This shot is actually a longer duration than what we're used to. And you can see that our frequencies are not terribly low, but we're at a 7.6 frequency. Our peak particles are very low. So you're not necessarily getting a high peak particle movement, you're just feeling it longer pass through the house. And the distance to Holly that day was 3,307. Moving on to Armando Diaz's concern here on the 7th. Felt intense shaking in the floor. This one seemed more intense than 4.6. Definitely shook the floor. So here's our shot. Instead of doing it on the south wall, here's the base pit, right in line with the Holly unit to Diaz. And this is almost the opposite of what we just saw in that waveform. Here we have a peak particle velocity. I wouldn't say that's high, but it's up there. It's a 0.2. But our frequencies are also very high, which is what we like to see. So now you're getting a more particle movement, but it's happening quicker. Again, this distance to the shot, well, the Holly resonance, the shot, 1,760 feet. Okay. Again, there were several Diaz concerns, with all of them in the 3, 1, 2.5 range, even some on this next one. We only elected to analyze the highest of his concerns, which is the 4.5. Yes.
Anybody call him?
Sorry,
Did he request a call? I guess not.
Mr. Diaz, was there no contact with you?
No, it was.
We marked down on here with your concerns whether or not you post a comment on there to be contacted. Were you looking for contact? No. Okay. And that's something that's our procedure. When we receive a concern and it says does the Quarry, and that's the print, it says does the Quarry would you like the Quarry Commission to reach out? We take it upon ourselves to make that first reach. And we document here on this column whether or not they wanted that, and if they did, we do everything we can to reach out to them.
Another question, are they 1,760 feet away?
Yes. Want me to both? Matt? Or wait?
Holly did not.
He did not.
He's much closer.
Correct.
So is that longer? Is it the longer resistance or?
As to why Mr. Holly made a comment as to Mr. Diaz, I don't know. I can only say, I mean, it could be, I mean, this is the reading recorded at the Holly residence. So if you're asking why this doesn't prompt a call from Mr. Holly versus Mr. Diaz, Mr. Holly, you're present, so you want to speak more to that?
I
Might not have been
don't
known.
remember feeling it. I'm not even sure I was home that day. I mean, I should have been.
Were you at home?
I don't remember being at home.
It is tricky. I mean, this is way back in March. This is on the 7th of April, so it's going to be hard to pin down. All right, that concludes our March and April analysis. June. All right. Our highest PPV for the month of May, we actually had him on 2 days, was a 0.185 inch per second recorded at the Warden residence. And that was on March 1st. That was an Aggie Pit ramp 5. And on the 27th, we had the same reading, 0.185 on the base pit north wall A. Our highest air over pressure recorded in the month of May was a 113 decibel reading at the Warden property line, and that was recorded on the 18th of May on the Aggie Pit ramp 6. And in June, our highest reading was a 0.173 inch per second recorded at the Warden residence and at the Warden property line. And that was on the 5th of June at the Aggie Pit. And our highest air overpressure in June was a 120 decibel reading recorded at the Warden residence on the 22nd of June. And that was an Aggie Pit North A shot.
Couple of questions about
Sure.
your May blast on, I think it's May 1st.
May 1st, okay.
There was Michael Gould.
Michael Gould, yes. Coming up here is our very first person we're going to talk about.
Go right ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I jumped the gun.
That's fine. Those past two slides, if you want me to, how do I go back? If I go back slides, go right in. Where's that? Hold on, maybe, well, let's check this out. Very good, very good. Okay, just once again, going over our USBM, everything's still plotting below our curve.
Definitely.
And we do have one, right, that goes over the 120, but still well below the 133 line. And that was our highest air over, and that was the 120 recorded on the 22nd. Okay. Yes, so Mr. Gould was our complaint on the 1st of May. The whole house shook and the windows rattled. I've never heard anything like this before while living here. Did something go wrong? Because it was very strange. It felt like an earthquake. Is anybody or organization monitoring this activity? We are.
Were you able to contact him?
Yes,
You were able to.
we did reach out to Mr. Gould. Yes.
And his comments to you, perchance?
You know what? Again, back in May, I don't think I fielded the call, but it did not have anything that was out of the ordinary. Typically, when we make these calls, we find the responses very positive. If we can get this concerned, we're on the ball real quick. It puts people's minds at ease that they can register a concern, and someone within an hour or so of that register actually respond to them.
Okay.
And you know, unless it's something that's way out of control and a major issue, it gets resolved within a 30-minute phone call.
Okay, well, I'll have another question in a bit, so.
Okay, sure. From that, we have a few Diaz concerns that are in the 4s and 3s. Our next move here is going to be for Mrs. Diaz.
Let me interrupt.
Sure.
I'm so confused. I apologize. But if you go back to the 120 on
Yeah.
just stated. Yeah, right there. It says that the high is 120, but what was the explanation for the like about 124?
133.
Sorry, that's right. If you're asking why that's not right at the line, yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. That's going to be a scaling issue on our end with our graph. I'm sorry about that. That's a valid question. Yeah, our highest was that 120. Yeah, we have that issue there. Okay, moving forward to our next concern.
Another question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you speak or somebody feels the question, do they ask or do you guys offer an opportunity to put a monitor in it?
Do we offer that? My recommendation is when we speak to a concerned homeowner, when we have a concerned homeowner, our immediate response is to please be present at the next meeting, which has been difficult the last couple of calls because we don't know when they're going to be. I let them know that is a possibility. However, it is, of course, you esteemed gentlemen that make that call as to whether the unit's going to go there. So they know they have that option, but they have to come to the bi-monthly meeting and make that choice.
Yeah, I've been communicating with Lalit. He's with,
LB,
Yeah.
yes. With Hanson, yes.
yeah, and we were supposed to have set up a meeting
Correct.
with him and the new Quarry general manager, but he never got back to me.
Okay.
But he's been pretty responsive in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, all I really want, because, I mean, you really can't explain why my house is vibrating more or less, but he's been pretty responsive in at least sending me where the blasts are taking place.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I'm just trying to find some correlation on why I feel some blasts sometimes and other times I don't, or less intense than others. But, yeah, I'd still like to, I guess, learn a little bit more. You know, one of the questions I asked, I think it had to do with John L's house, is that the information on the blast report has a
The distance marker.
a location, global location. But when you type in that location, Holly's house, where the seismograph shows up, kind of on the wall closest, you know, closer to his house, or the south side of the quarry, not anywhere near his house.
Right.
And I didn't understand why.
Sure. And that is something very much, Mr. Diaz, that LB and I have been talking about. Meeting with you, we really hope to nail down, maybe even here candidly after talking about, because there is, I totally understand why are we not monitoring right at Mr. Holly's house? Why are we up into that? It's an easement that we've placed that unit at.
Okay.
And I'm more than happy to field those questions. I've personally been involved with this Quarry Commission thing for the last 5, maybe 6 years. And I've been from the beginning as to when we started putting these units out. I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Yep.
It just has been the challenge of this year, determining what, I mean, if it was a normal, 2020 was a normal year, which we all know is not.
Sure.
I simply would have notified you in the first week of March, and we could have addressed this at your home, we could have addressed it here, we could have addressed it at the quarry, but with the regulations being such that they are, I would prefer to speak face to face with you possibly after this meeting. We'll hammer down the time to get you up to date.
Sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And that is a good question, and the reason why we do have that Holly unit up in that easement is because when we placed that unit, that seismograph, the ordinance clearly stated that it needed to be on the boundary line closest to the property, which is why we also have the Warden property line up in this corner and one at the Warden residence. And that was something that was stated, right? That's just always, that's where it's been.
Yeah, but, you know, when I type the location, and I'm depending on Google Earth to be
Sure.
accurate, so however accurate that is, and I can send you the email that I sent.
Yeah.
But the location of that sensor
Uh-huh.
actually shows up in the middle of the quarry and nowhere near any kind of an easement.
Interesting.
And again, you know, I'm relying on Google Earth to pinpoint that location. All the other locations for the sensors appear to be accurate.
Sure.
Or at the residences.
So this right here that I'm showing you, that's not where it plots?
No, it shows up, you know, like I said, it's in the quarry, and it's on that first, you know, beyond that first ledge and closer to the south wall.
Okay.
I'll send you the email.
Be more than happy to look at
And
that.
I'll copy all the commissioners so that they can see what I'm referring to.
To be clear and 100% direct, this is the actual
Okay.
100% correct location.
Yeah, no, and that shows up nowhere near
Okay.
that.
Interesting. Okay, we'll look into that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can I add something, please?
Sure.
Turn your microphone on, please.
It's on.
Gotcha.
Mr. Diaz, don't copy the commissioners. Send it to Kat, and Kat will forward it on so we can avoid an open meetings violation.
Okay, understood.
Okay, thank you.
Good reminder. True enough.
All right. The 18th. Oh, okay. Angela Haggard. She said the whole house shook violently. The couch felt like it was sliding, and pictures shook off the walls. Biggest blast in 2 years, have lived here. Again, saying she does not want to be contacted. So here we have, well, first, sorry, I'm clicking the wrong slides. Here we go. Mrs. Haggard. And this is when we start seeing, and this is this group from March into July, and we still have some residents in it in August. When we shoot the Aggie, it seems like we're getting some low frequency readings over here on the other side of 3009. There are a lot of concerns, not over here in Trophy Oaks, so much as there were way, way back. There are some ones that were a very far distance away, and I have those distances if you want to peel into that. So the waveform on that day, let's peel through this. We can see once again, our peaks and troughs are separated slightly, okay? So that is going to refer to our lower frequency. Once again, our peak particle velocity, the inch per second that's recorded, relatively low. There's really nothing to be concerned about. But with a low frequency, that vibration is slowly moving through the structure. So it's a lot more common to have a response to a low frequency shot. And we can see that in the Aggie pit, the clay, the soils, just the normal topography and the soil density seems to skip over Garden Ridge as a whole and affect that 3009 area more than what we see at Trophy Oaks. So when we see these Aggie pits, you'll notice when we peel through these, a consistent factor is that they're low frequency shots. So here, Mrs. Diaz, unless you wanted me to buy something elsewhere. The blast today felt like it shook the entire house, felt in the floor as well as vibrating in the walls. Okay. Here's our Aggie pit shot, our Warden property line, caught it right between. At the Warden property line, you can see as it cuts through, not on 3009, but here at the Warden property line, we're having what's a higher frequency event, okay, and a slightly higher PPV. So that means your inches per second are increasing more, but you're going through the house faster. Nothing really to worry about as far as the air pressure reading. That seems pretty consistent. And we're at a distance of 1,913 feet. Moving on to Mary Houston, shook the entire house, frightening to all, including small child inside the house. She did want the request to be contacted. We did reach out to her. Now, here we are, on the other side of 3009. Our seismograph picking that up, low frequency, okay? Much wider troughs going across. Again, nothing concerning about these numbers. Our inches per second are very low. It's just slowly moving through the house. And her distance is 2,636 feet away from the shot. And that's actually, that's where the city property line is to the shot, so she's more than that. But.
She had planned to be here today, but she's celebrating her birthday.
Okay. I've actually, Mr. Holly, taken to, when discussing with these homeowners, it's never been the past with Jeff or with Joe even. They never gave out their personal number. That's one thing I'm getting rid of. My number is available. My contact information is plastered. I really prefer the pattern of when people are concerned to just address me correctly or directly through that contact stuff. I'm more than happy to field questions and concerns from that.
Okay. That's great. We'd really like to know what their comments are just in case you get there before we do.
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like the more everybody gets on the same page,
Correct.
the happier
The better.
everybody will be, right?
Absolutely.
And here we are moving on again on the shot on the 18th. We had Philip Platt, and it was a large rumble in the early afternoon. The whole house shook, the foundation moved. Here we are on the other side of 3009. Michael's unit picked it up. Low frequency shot. Once again, inches per second were nothing to brag home about. It just took a longer time for that wave to pass through the house, more noticeable. Here's one from Mr. Holly on the 27th. And the blast was the worst I've felt when outside. Normally very little is felt in the garage or outside of it. This time, there was a lot of shaking in the garage and tool rattling. I checked with the family inside the house and made my daughter scream and scared, my wife and granddaughter. The fact that I was outside and expected to hear the horn blowing, there was no warning horn sound. Now, to that effect, I can speak to the Surf Techs, their siren has been down lately. I don't know when that's going to be back up. That's going to be something we can address Hanson, but I do know they're doing repairs on it in some form, but their siren horn has been down.
Okay, well, this is back at the end of May, too.
Yes.
That happened. And literally, I was outside doing what I do, and then the blast came, and literally, I looked around, and I'm looking at what the heck's gonna fall off the wall now? And then I went into the house, and I talked to the wife and the kids, and they said, "What's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter?" So they were very upset with that particular blast. So, yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Holly, just out of curiosity, if you had the prep, if you knew it was coming, do you think it would have been a mild thing, or do you think regardless, if you knew it was coming or not, that was just something that was going to get you?
Well, if I heard the horn, I would tend to stop.
Sure.
Look, listen, see what's going on, maybe go into the house, consider where they're at, and say, hey, there's a blast coming, so get ready, be prepared.
Okay.
Don't get all excited, but there was nothing.
There's nothing there.
And we don't normally hear the blast inside of the house because it's pretty sealed, but I was
Interesting.
outside, I didn't hear anything.
You didn't hear anything outside?
Not until the blast came.
Okay, okay, very good. So, against what we've been saying, this was not a low frequency shock. This had a higher peak particle velocity, but passed through directly. Almost no air overpressure came out. It's a 96 dB. So this was just a straight energy through the ground. Again, these numbers plot well below the USBM. Right? And that's something we can get with Hanson here this week and make sure we get that horn back up for sure. And our second page here is another one from Ms. Diaz. She rated it a 5. It's a huge blast, one of the worst I've experienced in quite a long time. I've lived in my home for over 20 years. The walls in the house seemed like they moved in waves. My grandchildren, age 11, ran for cover. So we shot way down here on the south wall that day. Our closest reading was here at Holly, and boom, here at Diaz. This shot, again, we actually did have a higher air over pressure. That's more than likely what was felt, because these readings with the ground vibration, they're a longer duration, which means they lasted longer, but both our frequencies and our peak particle velocity don't seem to be anything that's too troubling. I would estimate what was concerning about this particular shot was the air over pressure that came through the house. Finally, on the 22nd, we had Miss Pamela O'Connor, and she was saying the blast was so strong that it shook our bolted back doors down. Well, open. And here we are at the Aggie Pit, right next to now. The O'Connors is very interesting. We've never once received a concern from them. That's something we should consider addressing. If they shoot over here, my closest seismograph is behind that house. So that property right there for this Aggie shot is well covered, anything up in this direction. But if we're going to start receiving heavier shots down into this area, we want to make sure that's close, but it's best practice to be before the structure of the house. We've never had any concerns from the O'Connors before in the past. but right here at the Warden property line in that direction, you can see we have a higher peak particle velocity. I wouldn't say we have a low frequency, but it could have been higher. So with that with that inches per second being, you know, high enough, with the frequency passing through it, I can see that. Also, our overpressure was significant on that day. Still, being 2,120 feet away, nothing concerned with how that plot is. All right, and it is May, June. Moving on to July and August. All right. Our highest recorded peak particle velocity in the month of July was a 0.208 inch per second at the Warden residence, and that was recorded on the 14th of July, and that was an Aggie Pit West A shop. And our highest July air overpressure was a 120 decibel recorded at the Warden property line on the 20th of July, and that's an Aggie Pit North A shop. Our highest peak particle velocity for the month of August was a 0.148 inch per second recorded at the Warden property line on the 5th of August. That was an Aggie, and on August 26th, Aggie Pit West B. They were both 148 inch per second at the Warden property line. And our highest air overpressure was 119 decibel recorded at the Warden property line, and that was on the 5th of August at the Aggie Pit. All right, so once again, combined shots plot below the USBM curve. Our errors stay right at about 120 or lower. And with a few Diaz concerns here on rating 4, 3, and 1, move on to Diaz concern, which was rated a 5 on July 14th. I was in our dining room working on the computer when I first felt the floor shake and then heard the walls vibrate. This is probably the strongest blast I've felt in this magnitude. Okay, so here we have once again the Aggie Pit, Warden property line, Diaz zone. We're seeing frequency of a 7.6, so not super low. And our inches per second are 0.173 on that day with a 112 air overpressure. Distance from Warden residence to the shop is 2,002 feet. On the 14th, we have Carol McDaniel. Blast was unusually loud for this area, but also shook the house badly. I've experienced blasts over 15 years, and this was probably one of the worst violent ones I've ever felt. The house moved, and I thought, and it was enough for me to get searching for a place to report it, something I've never done. This cannot be good for our foundations. It felt like an earthquake. So here we have, now on the other side of 3009, which is directly behind the Michaels unit, low frequency shot. It's a 6.1, better than the 4.6s that we were seeing. And again, this attributes to different soil types that we've seen. This area happens to be a little more firmer, tight onto the ground, and once we come up into here, we start running into that Del Rio clay area. When we have low frequency shots, definitely rings on the other side of 3009, much higher than it does in Trophy Oaks. Again, though, with these readings at Michaels and it dissipating thereafter, you can say, with it being such a low frequency, you know, like I said, your inches per second aren't very high at all, but it's just taking longer to move through the structure. Distance from the shop to Michael's is 3,325 feet. Moving on to Miss Kelly, on the 20th. It's very loud and long-lasting. Here she is, again on the other side, 3009, Aggie bit way up here. What do we see? Frequency of 4.1 down here. That's again, nothing to be concerned about with the inches per second, just how long it's taking to move through the property. Mrs. Harwell on Sumac, she actually rates it a 5 plus 20. This has gotten way out of control. Scaring her children, the entire house shook and the glass windows rattled. It felt more like an earthquake. My son is afraid to leave my side now. Thank you. I will be requesting more information regarding the blast info. I am furious. Again, we talked with Mrs. Harwell. We explained the scenario as to what went on. I showed her, specifically the distance and where she's feeling. After, I would say, a slightly animated conversation, she was actually content and pleased to hear that we're on top of it. I don't know, she didn't say she was going to make it. I don't know if anyone had heard.
I talked to her today, and she was still very much upset and untrusting, literally.
Untrusting?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
she used some nice words with me.
Nice words. Okay. Is that untrusting towards, I don't know, the commission?
In general, the city, the commission, the blasting, the quarry, the
Okay.
entire, like, if she felt that if she had to have chosen a different place to live, she would have done so, but apparently not. She was upset.
All right. I got a different vibe on the phone call.
Yeah, I see. I see. Oh, she was, yeah, upset.
All right. Mrs. Adele Simmons, on the 20th of July, she rated it a 5, a significant impact on the home. Blast struck the entire house, knocked frames off the wall, cracks occurred in the tiles.
Were you able to talk with her at all?
Mrs. Simmons, I was not, another staff member in my office did.
Okay, because there's no phone number, no way for us to contact her, so I didn't know.
Did she not leave an email?
I haven't seen one.
Okay. Fairly confident that's how we, I'll have to look.
Okay,
I'll have to look.
thank you.
Yep. You're saying the number that she left was inactive?
No, the report that she filed, there was no number associated with it, no phone number.
I'll have to look. I think there is an email that's going
Okay.
to. Going crazy here. Yes, Mrs. Simmons. Here we're shooting at the Aggie Pit North. Michaels and Simmons were neck and neck. And we're at 3,500 feet away. Once again, low frequency. Again, taking a long time to move through the structure. Next, we have on the 24th, Mr. George Raleigh. The blast energy so strong it shook every window in my house. I was sitting and watching TV and could feel the house rock. We were going to damage our homes, blasting like that. This is not the first time we've experienced blasts this severe. Here, okay, so he's actually at Trophy Oaks. Okay. But now, you see we don't have a low frequency shot. Our inches per second are higher than we've seen on the past few waveforms. We're monitoring at a distance of 1,632 feet, and there was some air there at a 107. Mrs. Martin. Now, I spoke directly with Mrs. Martin. I'll read this for everybody, but her major concern was for the dust. And, and she had friends over, they were all out on the barbecue on the table, and she said, normally doesn't complain, she understands what's going on in the area, no issue, but the dust cloud that came to her house was very significant.
Correct.
And And she asked to see what procedures we have in place when we do, to mitigate dust and how we can avoid it. I spoke with her on the phone, and she was very, very content after the call.
Okay. I also spoke with her and I got the same vibe, if you will.
Yeah.
But yes, the dust, the noise, or just the cloud that came up affected them and what they were doing.
And she noted, she said there was like not a lick of a breeze in the air. It's a very stagnant, still day, is what she out and said. You know, we do have a weather station at Surftex which plots the windrows data.
Correct.
So when we do see, you know, strong winds coming towards the southeast, that's something that we take into effect before we pull off that shot for dust mitigation. On this particular day, with no wind to be in there, can't necessarily explain a massive plume like that. Just to read it, while having lunch on the back porch with my out-of-town family guests, the blast warning came on, followed by the blast. While the blast didn't seem out of the ordinary in terms of intensity, what followed was a visible roll of cloud of silica dust coming at us across the yard, onto the porch with a stench of black powder or dynamite explosives. We consider this a nuisance dust at least, and consider it to be a health and safety risk at most. Please let us know how many feet you are blasting from our property line, how many more blasts we should expect before you move on to a different area.
Those are still valid questions from her. She still asked the same things.
Yeah, and I can't speak to how much they're going to be in that area. That'll be a Buckley and Hanson question. How many shots they have down in that area.
I'm kind of looking back there at the back to give them an opportunity to speak up whenever they're ready.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. On that shot that they recorded at the Holly residence, we received good inches per second, but our frequencies were high as well. 107 air, so not much of that bringing it around. And we monitored at a distance of 1,632 feet. Moving on to the 5th of August, Colleen Brust. Huge blast, shook the house for 10 seconds, moved pictures and glass vase broke off the shelf. Here we have our egg pit shot, Warden residence right in between. Here we're seeing 7.3, so could be a little higher, but nothing too much with our inches per second at 1.4. We're 2,598 feet away, and we did have a 116 air, so I'm sure she felt that as well. On the 5th as well, Jolene Gould. Significant quake impact on the property of the house, shook windows around inside the house, smelling like, I'm guessing that's kind of gas after the quake event. Here we are, Mr. Gould once again on the other side of 3009. What do we see? A slow moving wave through the house. 3,001 feet away from the shot to city property. Now on to Mr. William Harkins. Quarry blasts are getting closer with higher intensity. This time, cracks are now noticeable in tiled structured corners. Still trying to locate the glass breakage I heard after this blast, or with this blast. Here he is. We put this Baker unit right next to it. Here's our reading. A longer shot duration. Really, those frequencies are high enough where I'm not seeing that move slowly through. And we're at 4,591 feet away from where that shot was. Again on the 5th, David Young, the blast rattled the roof, walls, and windows of my house. Here we have a direct line from the city property line from Mr. Young's house. At the city property line, we're getting our low frequency. 3,001 feet away. Again, nothing really to talk about. The air is at 114. Really wasn't that significant over at that direction. final concern on the 5th, around 3 p.m., a loud and damaging blast. The whole house shook and the windows shook. It's from Cynthia Dunfeld.
Anybody there?
Mhm.
Asked about the fifth number,
Yes.
look at these.
Uh-huh.
The air pressure to go from a low of 108 to a high of 119 measured at Paulsville, different places, and from a frequency of 5 to 22.7. And so, interesting story.
It is. It is, and you know, that's the struggle we have very much at this pit, is all of the different rock types and soil densities that are all throughout this area. Just showing some of the concerns, we had some people here had trophy oaks with a higher frequency, and just over here we're at 3009, when we go from the city property line, it looks like it's a much lower frequency that's hitting the unit. Now here we have a seismograph, right here is the Warden residence, and the city property line's right over here. So right along in that area, we've got I don't know if it's the Del Rio off the top of my head, but there is a clay deposit that is interfering with our shots and how we're feeling. Big mound of it right up into this area. Again, I don't know if that's the Del Rio or not, but there is something that's wreaking havoc in that area.
Thank you.
2,598 feet away. Again, our frequencies, we have a 7.4. So again, not as low as we've seen, not as high as we've seen. On the 7th, we have George Raley, heavy blast shook our home. It's back up into this corner here. And this is the South Wall G, shooting up here at Holly, our highest reading here, and we're just at these are good frequencies to see once we get into the 9.6s. Not much to discuss here about the air pressure with 112, 3,442 feet away.
I talked with him a couple of times, and his office, that when he says he's in the office, he's upstairs, so.
Is he?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that really means, but he's feeling it when he's upstairs in his office.
And is that a second or third story home, just out of
I
curiosity?
think it's second story. Yeah,
Okay.
it's 2-story.
Okay. We have Mr. Mills down Regency Run, in all caps, prolonged shaking of the entire house in Glassware, felt like a 3.5 earthquake. Shaking followed by a loud blast. Don't believe the blast was preceded by a siren. Felt like a bomb blast. And once again, we talked about the siren at Hanson. Here we are on South Wall G, our Holly unit. We picked up at 3,442 inches per second. Our inches per second are very low. We're at a frequency of 9.6. The only thing that could be the concern in this one is the air at 112, but still that's very low. And this is Hayslip on the 26th of August. The whole house shook. I thought a vehicle hit our home. Now, look at this distance, where the shot is to down over here. Closest seismograph to get the reading was at city property. Again, at city property line, we're seeing decent frequency readings. From the city property line to the shots, 2,755, and our air is at a 110. But to feel it from that great distance, I wonder, because I know Mrs. Hayslip has pulled up here on before. This particular time, she said not to comment. I know I've done presentations before, it would have been last year, or maybe the year before, where she's popped up, but that name, Hayslip, rings a bell. I don't know if anyone's contacted her, because at that distance, with the readings we recorded at city property line, I'm very curious to know if the whole house shook and I thought a vehicle hit our home. Just curious. And with that, that is the end presentations I've prepared. Mhm. Absolutely.
Over the last 6 months,
Yeah.
there have been about 2 blasts per month out of the Aggie pit. For a number of years I've been here, within this last year, I hadn't heard of the term Aggie pit much at all. So you folks have gone to that area in this last year.
Mhm.
And when I look at the peak readings each month, they seem to come from a blast at the Aggie pit. So, your contention was it's the soil coming from the Aggie pit that's causing that?
Merely the topography from, well, I guess the bulk of the concerns, and this is something that LB and I and Patrick Pete at Hanson are going to have a discussion about, do appear to be on the other side of 3009. That's something we got to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, and it's like there's a convective line going from that Aggie pit, across into that. And my question, I guess, would be, last time we were here back in, let's say, February or January, and for several months before that, when we would meet, the managers would say, it looks like in the near future we're going to be going into the south area there, that south wall down near 5222.
Right.
And then since that time though, there is blasting there, but it's there's this new set of blasts each month at this Aggie pit. So is that going to continue? Do we know that?
Again, that's a Hanson question.
Yeah, okay.
I'll leave this map up just to show, we did have several on the south.
Right.
And when we do shoot on the south, our complaints are minimal.
Yeah, that's what we had noticed, back in our last few meetings. The number of complaints were down.
Yes.
The scores were fairly good. The blast measures were very good.
Yeah.
And so I guess there seems to me to be a correlation that says blasting at the Aggie pit ends up with some higher readings and perhaps some complaints across 3009.
I'd adjust that to say not higher readings, but they're feeling it's taking a longer time for that wave to pass through the house.
Well,
That's
what I
they're
meant
noticing.
was, each of the last few months, the highest readings have been on the Aggie pit blast.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether it's placement of the monitors, but there's a definite pattern there.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And that's something that, we can obviously discuss with the roaming monitor. It might be interesting now that if we're shooting here in the Aggie pit, it might be, we have the one Michaels and the Baker instrument over here, but certainly some of the people that are very agitated, it might be best to maybe put a unit down there and just see what we get. I'll leave that up to everybody.
Is there any thought to putting monitors around Regency Run?
That's another area we can go through, but no, there currently are not. That's something.
Maybe why we're not getting any complaints or any kind of information on what's happening.
From what we've got in the last 6 months, I believe it's Mr. Mills. Of all that I've shown is the only one out of all 8 months that put in some type of concern.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I don't know, at least 5, maybe 6 concerns on 3009. But again, that's you guys decide on where you want to move that one. Or we'll go wherever.
Question, Nicholas.
Sure.
Seemed like earlier in the year you had lower charge or load, and
there were not as many complaints. I don't know if there was a differential later in the year to have so many complaints.
Can't speak to the adjustment of the shot pattern. I know Buckley and Hanson are present. They would give you more reading as to what that is. Something that I won't say is the number one cause, okay, but something to consider is the fact that since March, we've all been confined to our homes. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not pinning all of the concerns based off this, but my theory is the majority of some of these people that have made their comments, maybe they're at work at 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, and now, for the last 8 months, have been working out of their homes. There must be some increase to that, but like I said, I don't want to pin everything onto that, but that might be something to consider as well.
What I really like is the opportunity maybe to offer a monitor, not as an appeasement. We do care about you, and we'd love to be of assistance and help, talk about the warning signals or sirens versus, you know, if you offer them. I mean, we felt it. We haven't, we're right across 3009 in George Ranch, but I mean, we can hear it, but it's not felt in the house. Maybe the foundation is different. I don't know. Maybe the soil is different.
When we've discussed that with this group on many occasions, how, you know, the location, and as you can see, in 2 months, they go from every bit of this pit. So the location changes daily. You're right, Mr. Haddad, we do have different building materials that we have. The direction of the house, if this house over here faces right into the pit and this one faces away, big windows, that's going to be a factor as well. And another big cause, obviously, as we've talked about today, is we do have different soil densities and different topographies just from this side of the road to this side of the road. All of these factors have to be evaluated before you can sit by and say, well, how come no one's ever complaining here at Baker and everybody down here at Regency running are going crazy? It all comes down to where they're shooting, like I said, building materials, our location to the shot, the topography, the soil type. And then getting into the nitty gritty of the particular shot that day too, because those change on the day as well. So it's very, very difficult to pin down a precise, direct, persistent, guaranteed, accurate line. Hey, when we shoot in this corner, we're going to get 6 complaints down into this area. We just know we based it on a lot of factors that are going to affect that.
Who's, in the last 6 months, has it been Hanson or Buckley or both doing the blast?
Buckley Powder is the contracted powder company.
Yeah, Buckley.
And they shoot at Hanson, which is the Quarry facility.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yep. But
But
it's been
They're
Buckley.
no longer working for them. No, not for Hanson. Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's occurred to Buckley. I was reading their application again, and it says very clearly that our blasters and technical staff are familiar with the geographical abnormality, which must be addressed to keep environmental effects to minimum. So they obviously have that at the top of their list.
We did spend an extensive amount of time, going through what's called a vibra map, which we've addressed here in front of the Quarry Commission and mapped out the different soil densities. So, to say that they're not aware, they're aware, but at the end of the day, they have to still be profitable to shoot. With all the readings that we've received, there's nothing coming any close to any damage or any statistical likelihood of damage that's occurred at any of the homes. Now, as to why one person feels it harder than the other person, that is difficult. That's what we're trying our best to maintain and make sure.
All right.
All
Anything
set?
else? Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Yes, please, because I have to get out.
I had some people concerned about the amount of truck traffic coming out of Hanson and going north towards Old Comel, which would be towards New Braunfels. And before I respond to any of their concerns. I always like to do a little bit of research, so I sat outside the exit gate at Hanson for several days and counted trucks, and I only had one day that 100% of them did not go straight to I-35. And one day, I don't know what, and this isn't directed at you, but what would be a reason that a truck would come out of Hanson and take a left and go in towards Okomel? Would there be any reason for that? Do you have another job site down there? Are you servicing anybody down that way?
No, the trucks aren't ours. That's
Oh, I understand that.
That's our customer's haul material. The only thing I can think is that on 2252, if the train was blocking, they go to pull out, the train's there, they probably went left to hit I-35.
Well, that wasn't the case. Now, and we're not talking about a lot of 27, within a half an hour period, there was 27 trucks that come out and went straight, and 6 additional trucks come out, took a left and went north. And I just wondered if you all had a job site up, you were servicing up that way or whatever, because we were working with the asphalt plant and actually changed our ordinance to allow them to come out of their plant, take a left and go to 2252 and hit 35. So they wouldn't have to go through Old Town Comel. And that's you know, up there by the old cotton gin and everything. So we worked with them on that, but I'm being told that there's a lot of trucks, gravel trucks going up that way right now. I don't see it in my research, with the exception of that one day. And I just wondered if there was a reason for that.
No, the only way they leave our operation head north is if they were servicing the asphalt plant there. We're not directing there. Do you know of any reason there?
Coming out of Hanson Pit, it's not many trucks do that left, but a lot of those road trucks do go that way up that road because there are 3 other pits up the road between here and New Braunfels.
They wouldn't be going up there full, would they?
They're leaving our pit there, heading left, going north.
That I don't see.
And I know we're not shipping any material any other, at times we will buy, another operation will buy from us, and we'll deliver to a quarry, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I know they're all independent contractors. You really don't have control over them. I was just wondering. I didn't,
Sorry, if you guys
after
can answer
hearing,
questions, can you speak into the microphone?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
after hearing the concerns from these people and sitting outside your exit, I don't really think we have a problem. I think we can take this off the agenda for next month. Is that okay? Because I asked to have it on there for next month.
He brought it up at the last meeting.
At the next council meeting.
To add to the agenda.
I'll talk to you about it later, Nancy. Anyhow, I just wondered if there was, that one particular day, if there's any reason that we would have that many trucks. Of course, not that many, less than 10%.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, but what I'll do is tomorrow I'll get with our sales manager to see if he knows of any reason and/or what type of tracking we could put in place. We currently do not have a camera on that entranceway, so maybe it's just doing spot checks and counting trucks leaving.
Well, again,
It's definitely not the norm.
the rest of the days I was out there, 100% went straight to 35. So
Yeah, that's typically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Comments? Nope, okay. Reviewed those, we reviewed the blast reports. I think, so we're about ready to go over the application? Well, do you have anyone that wants to move the monitor? Have you heard from anyone that wants to have a monitor? None of you? None? We're there? Nope.
You could mention, you know, that if someone would have a problem, if you wanted me to call and offer.
That's doable, but the people that I've talked to, they're a little bit irate and didn't really want to have anything to do with the quarry, let alone a monitor. Just, you know, and the ones that were willing to do something, they just wanted to hear back and know what was going on, if these blasts were something that's gonna continue and what direction they're going in, that kind of thing. And you had, Nick, you had mentioned moving the monitor, but you needed to know where, so.
Again, I don't, it's up to you to make that call, we'll go wherever.
Exactly, exactly, so. We still have to do some more research on figuring out where we can actually put the monitors, okay? If you hear from anyone that wants to have a monitor just because they want to document, to show that they're, you know, being good-natured or whatever, it'd be a good idea to have a monitor placed there so that they'd be able to at least have some sort of information that they can say that they've done something to their benefit.
Yeah, I think a good practice would be, rather than asking residents whether or not they want a monitor,
Okay.
is to put them in the best locations to get a better picture of what's happening with the blasting. Because we have quite a few concentrated, you know, in Trophy Oaks and on the other side of 3009, but we don't have anything to capture data, you know, say for the South Wall, like at
Right.
Regency Run, or any other place. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I think that what we need to be able to do is, what the Quarry needs to be able to do in Vibratech, is to capture the best data, you know, objectively, right? I know homeowners are interested in what's happening to their home and having a monitor at their house and seeing what the actual, you know, frequencies and blasting is doing, you know, kind of helps them put some perspective on how strong the blasts are. But I think in order to capture what's actually happening is to be strategic about it and place the monitors where we get some meaningful data.
That's a great idea. Only problem and concerns that I see about that is trying to figure out where that location is and having
Yep.
permission to go there.
Yeah, and I
So,
think
as we talk around with our neighbors.
Yeah, and I think
suggest it that way.
the best people to answer that is the Quarry or Vibratech. You know, they're the ones that understand the topography and the geology, and maybe we should ask for a recommendation from them on where they would be putting the monitors.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Is that something, who would look at that? Is that Vibratech?
Absolutely, we can make recommendations. It is something I want to, you know, make sure Hanson's okay with as well.
I mean, what was everybody else? I mean,
I think the concern is a legal kind of situation. If you're going into somebody's property, you need to be able to have their.
understood,
permission.
yeah,
And that's always been the concern.
yeah.
Even at my property, I had no problem with them. I don't even have a fence around it, so I said, yeah, come on in, put it back there. And
Sure.
finally, they came across and said, well, we're gonna put it just on the other side of the fence in that easement. And I can see it clearly what's there, but
Yeah.
now they don't have to go out there and check it, because every time a blast happens, they can do it remotely and get that information. So the one that rolls around, I think that's at the Bakers and at, where was the other place?
Nichols.
Nichols.
I think Nichols was before Baker, I think.
And what we've done historically is try to do that. I mean, that's why we keep having the Warden House, because it was one that started from the very beginning, and so we can compare the data historically to see what's different today. And then what we do is, the roving has always been to the closest housing unit that we could find to do that. So we do pick up and move strategically to do that.
now that we're moving and getting more shots in the Aggie pit, it's not surprising at all to me that the homes up there are now feeling a different blast because it's coming from a different location and it's closer. But it's far enough that their homes are going to vibrate at the same rate as the ground. So it's gonna get, the number's gonna be lower, but because of the resonant frequency, they're gonna feel it more. And so it's not surprising to me at all that we're having that, but that is also where we need to start making sure that we keep a unit at Baker or Nichols place to capture that as best we can. And there may be another place you'd recommend, but I think that's been a large follow along. Have a couple like city property and so on, where we record data to keep it in history, and then we move the roving to do whatever we need that is best for us to judge what's happening.
My one addition to that, my one suggestion to put out there is the current, it's Michaels and Baker are on the other side of 3009, but that Baker unit is what we call the roaming monitor. And over the last year, it hasn't roamed much. I think we installed that Baker unit probably at least this time last year. If I could make the suggestion, I mean, after each one of these meetings, it may be best to move from Baker and get 2 months of reading on Regency Run. And if that seems to be fine, we move back over to 3009. But my recommendation would just keep that roaming monitor roaming. And it hasn't in the past year.
We really haven't had anybody that's willing to have a monitor, and that's been a problem.
Sure.
So, but maybe turning the suggestion around in the way you were saying it, maybe that will open it up a little bit, so.
Yes, I think the Baker, Warden, and the city property, they're all relatively close together, I think. Looking at it from the bird's eye view.
Way up
Because Baker, I mean, they're just down the road from Warden, right?
there. No.
Which Baker? We're talking Baker, from the Oaks here.
That's on the other side.
Yeah, it's on, Baker's on the other side of 3009, as well as Michael's.
It's the furthest northwest place right now that we have.
Correct.
Yes, I was just looking at the name, not the location. You were, your name's yours, okay? Baker's one, all that.
No, I mean, what I noticed in the last few months, we had our first, impact reports from Chiefly, and Sumac Lane and Sumac Circle. They're all pretty, very, almost just right across from the city hall area. And I'm wondering if, the city monitor is right near there, is that correct?
So the city property
Yeah.
is just up the road here,
Yeah, the white here.
by the water tower.
So
Yep.
it's pretty close to, if some of these complaints are right on Teakwood, you're just right across the street, right across 3009.
Right, the Teakwood location is just across 3009, close to the city
Yeah,
monitor,
so,
but
and-
the other ones aren't.
And I, since I know that area a little bit, this is, the last 6 months is the first I've really seen impact reports from those homes right across 3009 in that area, Sumac and Teakwood. So I was thinking, oh, well, let's see if we can put a monitor right up in that area. But it seems to me the city property line monitor is pretty close to that. No?
Not really, because, for example, the Warden residence and my residence, if I was to just take off and say, I'm gonna go straight by, crows fly, I could be there in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's, but if I take the streets, it's gonna take me like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to get there. But that's how, and we're fairly close together, but you see the differences between when something blasted my residence compared to the Warden residence compared to the city. So the Baker and the Michaels residents are pretty far away from everything.
Right.
But having something over there on Teakwood or
Sumac.
Sumac
Yeah.
would be better, or even further in Boulder Garden Ridge, what's that area?
If you move to Baker or
Forest Park.
Baker, when just down towards Block City, even.
Exactly, exactly.
Where we don't have.
But will you speak with anybody that you run into over there and see if you can get it placed?
Well, we have any city property over there, what about, what's around the park? That's too far away.
We, in the George Ranch Park,
No.
City Park.
Paul's
Paul's Park.
Williams Park, the city, maybe some city property, you could put it on.
that's fine. I'm not familiar where that is, if you would, if Grass Creek and Blue Bell. You could, is that on my map, if you pull up one of my presentations?
But the complaints that we're getting are actually that far away. If you could pull that map up there, Chance.
I'm familiar with that area.
Do January, February,
Okay,
The park is further away.
it's still much further.
Yeah.
right?
So-
You won't be able to necessarily zoom in,
It's right here,
okay?
at Blue Valley Grass Creek.
Okay,
That's where the park is.
correct. Everyone see that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. See, and so Teakwood would be just right across the street from the city hall property, city property. Well, has anyone talked to, let me say, Angela Hager and Michael Gould? Someone talked to Michael Gould.
I talked to, it was Jolene Gould
Yeah, okay.
on Teakwood.
Yeah, that's the one. I might see if I might just give them a call
Okay,
and see if they would be willing to have the roving monitor, for a month, on their property.
that would be a good idea. I mean, she was one that did complain about the gas smell, so be aware.
Is that something that we can just leave to the authority of the chair that says somebody gets a call, authorize a call to fire protection, and say, move it?
I would prefer an email from the Quarry Commission on what day to move the address to what location. I do need that in writing.
I was wondering about the process though with the city administrator.
Sure. Here, Nancy.
I would say
Y'all
yes.
could, by consensus, agree to place it on the property if that party agrees
Consensus,
to it. And then, if they do agree, then,
I would
who's gonna
submit a
make the
note.
call?
I would submit a note basically to
Yes, submit a
through
note.
the city.
Yes,
And say,
and
can you
copy-
move the monitor from X to Y?
If you don't mind copying me on that,
Absolutely, no problem.
so that we can keep track of it as well.
Correct, absolutely.
I think, but I quickly, just notify the city administrator and let her take care of it, because she's got to keep it up. She's the one that has to be the administrator forever.
Well, I mean,
Gone.
That's true, but in the meantime, we have to follow our protocols.
No, we're gonna give you the authority to do that, and then just notify the city administrator.
that's however y'all want to do it. We'll make sure
Okay.
that, between Chairman Holly and I think we'll make sure
I
that
think we
they'll be notified.
Yes, we'll get together.
Do we
All right,
need to
fair.
make a motion on that then?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, Kat?
If you will be agreeing by consensus, there is no need to make a motion. You just all need to basically say, I agree with whatever you decide upon.
Okay.
I agree.
Does anybody have any other comments about that kind of process for getting the monitor moved and placed?
Okay.
I suggest that we do this.
And I'll volunteer to make some phone calls to the folks either on Sumac or Teakwood who have expressed an offer. And if they take us up on the offer, we can take a look at
Great.
maybe in the month of October, starting, to move the
We should be able to start as soon as you find someone that wants to do that. We can make
Okay.
it happen.
All right. And
Everybody-
if,
The-
and if not, we'll just leave the monitor, roving monitor as it is.
Yes, get it roving again.
Okay.
And all I do need, you know, if I get the email at 9 o'clock and they happen to be shooting at 1 o'clock, there's no necessary guarantee I'm capturing that shot. So I do need as much heads up as you can give me, and we're going to be very clear in that communication, saying if I get an email at 9 in the morning saying we'd like to have this moved, my response will be something similar. Yes, we will have a technician out on this day. Okay? And that'll be noted. As long as that's fine, I'm good with that. Okay?
Yeah, I would have no, I don't want to pin you against the wall that way, no way.
Sure. As long as we have that email trace, I'm cool with that.
Thank you. Yes.
Can y'all give your, or what you want your consensus to be? So, to Kat, so that she can make sure she gets that correct for the minutes.
Consensus is that we would like the chair to provide information to the administrator to move the monitor by notifying Vibertech specifically as soon as possible, once the decision is made.
Without having to go through a meeting.
Right. Is that sufficient? Okay, need some, write what you want, and I bet you sign it.
That was perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Twist my arm. Okay. So is that answer your monitor questions, Jerry? Okay. Okay.
Item 4.
Yes. Items applicable to the Quarry Commission discussed. No, I was there, and because we didn't really have anything, the only thing that did come up at the last city council meeting was the question that Commissioner Councilman Lancey brought up about the trucks going in and out, or coming out of the quarry, and that was the only thing that was brought up at the last council meeting. Other than that, we've been waiting for smaller blast, and they've been what they've been. So I will go back to them next month and present the ideas of what we discussed here tonight, but right now, we're good. Any other updates on the grapevine? Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine, you're fine. The city council approved and accepted Mr. Dubois' resignation. It was going to be a month or two before the commission was going to be meeting again. So they went ahead and approved and accepted that.
Good. Okay. Any other grapevine article ideas, thoughts, comments? Okay. Number 6, ordinance 210, 022018.
Buckley Powder's partial exemption permit,
Did I skip that?
C1.
C1. Maybe I flipped the page or something. Okay, I have no problem with the Buckley Powder one, because that's what I wanted to start with to begin with, but. Okay, let's back up to item C1. I'm looking at the right
Do you want me to make the presentation, Commissioner Holly?
Yes, please, if you will.
Buckley Powder has submitted an application for a partial exemption permit to conduct blasting at Hanson Quarry for the period of October 1 through September 30th. We did get the application and package the week before the July meeting would have been scheduled. However, there were 2 documents in that packet that were missing, and I was not sure how long it was going to take them to get those documents into us, as well as at that time we were having another spike. We had that second spike with COVID, so we did not conduct that meeting in July. So we're bringing it before the Quarry Commission tonight. Your recommendation would go to City Council at their October 7th City Council meeting, and the current ordinance 34, the rewrite does allow for a little bit of a lap over if something is not, we weren't able to get the meetings in the order we normally have them. The packet, we do have all the documentation now. The packet is very consistent with the packets that have been presented over the past couple of years for Buckley Powder. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir. And City Council will consider a blasting permit fee at their meeting on the 7th.
Okay.
I move we recommend City Council to approve the Buckley permit.
Questions? Were there any questions other than what she had to say? Comments? Okay. Jerry, you second it? It's been moved and seconded to accept the blasting permit to be sent to the City Council for approval. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you for that. I don't vote. Okay. I understand what happened. Discussing expiring terms, I think that's where we're at. It's C2. Number III. There was a commission, not a commissioner, there was a gentleman that wanted to be here tonight, but he got a call from his wife saying that she needed to be picked up, and it was sort of like an emergency thing, so he's willing to become a member of the council. He knows that the timing is, it'll be difficult for him, but it's still okay, and he wants to do this, and I have talked with him. He's a great guy, as far as I can tell. So.
Is this Gary Dillon, whose resume we have?
Yes.
So we're on one where we just did, you've got the update on the block.
Correct.
So now we're interviewing possible candidates, and you're talking about him, you can't be here. So are we ready to consider him for that discussion? Is that okay?
I think we should at least table it until next time. Unfortunately, I mean, it's just, the rules, I believe. Okay? But I just want to let you know why he isn't here, and it wasn't that he intended not to be here, it's just that things caught up. Okay. So then now, the next one down, number 4, is discussing my expiring term and Commissioner Baruki's expiring term. we have an issue. The first issue that I see is that if I want to continue to be on the commission, it needs to be presented to the city council, because I've already used my one exemption to extend my stay on the commission. So it would be left up to the city council to say, yes, you can stay another term, or I guess even, can I finish this term, or am I, like, September 30th done? Do you recall?
Well, your term is expired the end of September. Typically, you stay in office until you're replaced, or until the council takes action.
So I will know more by October 10th, let's say. In the meantime, I will stay in my place, if you don't mind.
All the only thing I'm wondering is that I thought there was a way that if we did not have applicants, we have one, that's the law. We bring them back to the commission, they could ask for an extension for a longer term.
That is true, that is true, but the problem is that I've overextended my welcome. I've done that several times, at least more than what the ordinance, the current ordinance says. No. let me say it, no. I mean, I would like to say yes, we could decide, but no, we don't. It's the city council. Yes, you can, but it's still the city council that will make that final determination. Okay.
The waiver is, per ordinance, is for one time.
What is the deal on here that,
And it would have to be, the council would have to find good cause. And
so is that something that we initiate, or is that just, we just leave it at the council period, or how does that work?
well, during Commissioner Hawley's update to council, that's when that would be brought forward.
Thank you.
And for the reappointments too.
Correct.
And may I also make a small request? If you guys are going to recommend Chair Hawley has another term with a waiver, if you could make that a separate motion from, I believe it's Mr. Baruki.
Correct.
Being two separate motions, basically, is what I'm asking for.
I thought I deserved that we don't do that.
No. We're going to present it to the city council, but we're going to do it in two separate entities. One for Commissioner Baruki, one for me. Thank you. Yes, or request for action by council. Okay. I would like that, yes, so that she can have it for a documentation that that request is going. How about you request that I stay, and then I can request that you stay?
Or, yes. All right. I guess I move that we approach the city council to determine the ability to get an additional waiver to allow Commissioner Howley to stay for another 2 years.
I second. So moved. Oh, discussion? Okay. Well, comments? Yep.
As everybody knows, I have submitted my resignation also, and that would be a good cause, Nancy, to also put on the record that because of family reasons, I had submitted my resignation, I believe, to you, and I think Nancy was copied, I'm not sure.
Last.
Did you submit it in writing?
No, you didn't.
I think I did, no?
Not really.
No, okay, I'll
I
submit it.
think I've heard it verbally.
Okay, I thought I sent an email, but I'll send it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
address it to you or Commissioner?
You can send it to both of us, you can send it to me.
Thank you.
Interesting. Yes.
Yes, we still have a motion made by Commissioner Baruki to reappoint Holly, and we still need a second. There has not been a second.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we also, or in addition to, we keep.
We need to vote.
Oh, jeez. Okay, it's sort of like given to me when we're all here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It has been moved that we do this, okay? All right. So I would also like to make a motion that Commissioner Baruki be appointed a second term.
I'm sorry, Chair, but you're not allowed to make motions.
That's true.
So I apologize.
You're welcome, thank you.
So moved.
No, make the motion first.
You make the motion that, I move that we recommend the city council that Commissioner Baruki be given additional time.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Are we good now?
That was beautiful. Thank you, Joe.
Close. All right, cool. Education. Discuss. Anything else in item C that you see that we need to discuss? Yes?
As you're all aware, ordinance 210 requires each commissioner to attend 2 regular city council meetings annually, but due to the COVID health emergency, the city council has waived that requirement temporarily.
Thank you.
So
Great.
just to update.
That's great because, because when you look at the minutes, you can see that I've been there.
You did it. Is that meeting that is waived beginning of the year or just until the year?
At,
Along.
I would say for sure through the end of the year. Of course, we don't know what,
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
it's
know how
an
things are gonna work
ever-evolving
out.
situation.
Thank you very much. I'm sure they all appreciate that.
But do remember, we are streamed, and if you would like to watch the meetings, please do.
Does that count? No.
But an interesting thought though, since you know that the meeting was streamed, and if we say that we logged into the system, you can't, I'm thinking, how would the city council know that we were there and we paid attention?
They won't know if you watch the
You
stream
just-
version of it. We don't know who's
You know,
watching.
so many accesses.
We know how
portal.
many people, we can get that number, but we can't tell who is
Okay.
watching and who isn't.
Hey, Bud Light works too. Okay, well, it was worth an effort. Okay. Training material, blasting materials, I think. Item D, educational and training.
So I've spoken with LB at length about our presentation. We have made the edits that were required back in January, I believe, with the exception of one. And I'll just point out that slide. And that's just, I can't doctor the graphic. Yes, right here, our vibration standards, it was requested that for our mortar joints, we alter that number from 3.0 to 4. It's right here. Due to, well, no, it wasn't even that. It's this 3 to 15 hertz on drywall. It was requested that we alter that 3 to a 4. I can't do that. Just tailoring with it. This is in our graphic. I can't edit that out. But that was the one request that was made that we did not make. Short of that, all the other edits we have in place.
Why would you want to edit it or change it to 4?
I believe it was Mr. Holloway that looked at our USBM. Here it is. And made note that this doesn't necessarily.
That's not 3 yet.
A 3? He thought that just would look better as a 4.
Okay.
I'm unable to alter either graphic. Short of that, everything that's been requested has been altered in this, and it's ready for submittal. Approved by Hanson, approved by Vibratech. Thank you.
Few questions, if I may. Does anybody have any other comments or anything regarding that? And this is not really to change anything. I just want to bring up some thoughts about the permit. And I read through your permit submittal and whatnot for Buckley, right? Right. Okay. And really a nice presentation about what's going on, what the blasting is all about, what's going to be affected, how you're monitoring things, and how you plan to, I guess, expand the knowledge of the people around in the area so that they know that you're not out there just blowing up firecrackers, but you're actually looking at the science that's involved with the blasting and whatnot. So that was a good write-up. But is there any kind of information that you put out about how many blasts you plan to do over the next year? Yeah, got a few of those. 365 every day at noon.
Dustin Altoff of Buckley Powder. No, we don't do anything like that right now. That's something we can work with Hanson on. Moving forward for the next year, what the plan is and kind of the amount of tonnage that they're seeking and an approximate amount of blast that would be.
And as far as the locations of where these blasts may occur?
Again, it would come from Hanson as well with their mine
Hanson.
plan where we need to be, where we need to go. But yes, we work with them pretty closely on the mine plan. Excuse me, on the mine plan and where we do need to blast. Yes, sir.
So what we see is from all of these records, from March through August, 6-month period, there were a total of about 75 blasts.
Okay.
About 12 per month, generally. Is there any way of knowing whether that's roughly going to maintain that pace, or is there likely to be a seasonal kind of thing that says, we're going to have to increase because it's such and such a time?
Hi, I'm Pat Peaton with Hanson, plant manager. Been here just over 5 months. The answer to that question is that's a little bit off our typical pace. This year we're doing less production than we've done historically. We're right in the middle of the budget process now, and next year is going to be equivalent to this year, a little bit less than what the historical numbers are. But 75, 12 per month, that's about the norm.
Okay, good.
And as far as the question, what areas of the pit, it all depends on, I don't know what all's been discussed here as far as the quality of the rock we have in the pit.
Sure.
It would be so easy if we could just say we're gonna hit one area of the pit, mine that out and be done. we have to do a certain percentage, there's A, B, and C rock in that pit. We can only blend up to 20% of C rock, which is that base pit area. So that base pit, there was a question, are we gonna be out of there anytime soon? That base pit's gonna be active for the next 20 to 30 years. That's the life of the quarry at this point in time. So I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Okay.
Can I follow then with?
Absolutely.
The Aggie pit?
Yeah, the Aggie pit is a new area. That's where we're driving down lower, so those elevated readings early on, that's, well, Nick may have to answer this, but you got a flat floor and you're trying to drive a ramp down in, that's where it's very expensive. It's not most efficient for blasting. We now have that floor established. We're opening up, having 2 different faces that we can shoot in. Geology plays a big part of that, but we're back to a normal blasting of a high wall.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Good, yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and I was about to go to the Aggie pit because it seems like it has been a kind of a problematic discussion that we've had tonight. And thank you for that comment. Appreciate it very much. Okay, thank you much. Any other questions, comments? Oh. Yeah, any future agenda items? Well, one, I guess you might say, is we want to try and figure out how to get the roving monitor monitoring again, not just sitting still in one location. So that's something that we want to discuss again, and keep track of what's happening with the Aggie pit as well.
Is, I'm not sure what's within this commission's purview, but has this commission ever talked about air particulates?
Yes.
Monitoring that, as well as noise coming from the quarry? Okay.
Yes, so in fact, we've had monitors that have been placed out, and we've captured wind direction and velocity, north, south, east, and west, along with the noise. And literally, even in I'll say in my residence, they put the monitor back there, and they picked me up walking back there to the monitor. So, but it wasn't enough to cause, it didn't break 80 dB, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, yes, it has been discussed.
We've used them, and they basically were not useful.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Any other questions? Thoughts, comments?
Am I allowed to run down a few things?
Yes, please.
The first, Mr. Diaz, we talked about the GPS coordinates being off.
Yeah.
I found that's, not knowing what's going on with that, I found that's kind of typical. If you transpose the numbers, it'll put you out far off. So that could have just been a fat-fingered mistake on GPS, but we'll definitely look into that. The siren being down, as of 2 weeks ago, end of August, first part of September, we purchased a new compressor and have that siren working. Question I was going to have is, would a text notification be a better approach? That we still have the blasting sequence, but whatever select group, we do a text notification saying, we're shooting today, so everybody knows, and then the second one could go out and say, between 1 and 2, there's going to be a shot. Just throwing that out there as a possible option.
Well, we've discussed that before, and basically came down that there weren't very many people that signed up at all. And it was determined that the siren was the best mechanism. But we tried that before, and it just didn't work.
And then we have changed the blasting siren procedures, have we not?
Yeah, we've modified them a little bit.
So instead of being the long continuous, you're doing the whistle, it'll stop, the shot will be fired, and there'll be 3.
It's supposed to be 3 short blasts.
3 short whistles for all clear afterwards. So that could have an impact as well.
The warning siren or whistle goes off how soon before the blast?
It's within a minute of the blast.
Well,
Isn't that an OSHA an OSHA requirement?
No, it's not an OSHA, it's not an MSHA requirement. You know, back on the East Coast, I'm used to 30-second whistles, and then there's a 1 minute silence period. The shot would be detonated, and then you do one long 45-second all clear whistle. I've never been associated with a horn or siren going the entire duration of the shot. What our employees have complained about is that they need to get on the radio, especially the guy blowing the whistle right out there by it. If we need to stop the shot because somebody has broken through one of the breach, security, you can't hear. So that's why we were looking for it. That's why we did make the change for safety reasons. Didn't think of how it could adversely affect our neighbors no longer hearing the whistle and then feeling the vibration.
So that sequence again is going to be what? It's going to be.
It's
It's a 30-second long blast, which would be probably
a minute or so.
30 seconds to a minute from the shot, depending on double checking with guard positions, everything's all clear. And then we'll fire the shot, and then it takes us anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute or so to examine the shot, make sure everything looks like it is fired. At that time, we will issue the all clear. Personnel can come back into that area.
And the all clear was going to be 3 short beeps or whatever, okay.
3 short blasts with that horn again, yes.
And we say short, 10 to 15 seconds. Pulses, 3 of them. So 3, 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds.
Well, we will have a learning curve because that horn, I usually listen for it and I have time to go run into the house or do whatever I want to do. Right. To say it's getting ready and then it just goes on and on and on and on and on and finally it happens. Now it's going to be like, oh, here it is. And I take off. It's going to be too late. It'll be done before I get to the house. Okay, fair enough.
Is there a way to get an alternate number for Garden Ridge for notification or an alternate method? I just know the past 5 months I've been here, there's 3 or 4 times I've been asked to race down here and we can't get a hold of anybody at Garden Ridge for blasting. And as I pull in the drive, you get through.
Yeah. We've got a primary number and then a secondary number we call. Recent months, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, is we dial in, don't get an answer, get the answering machine. We've got the tape clear and we're wasting between 1 and 2.
Between 1 and 2?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I can think that you would be going to the answering machine is if all of our phone lines are being used.
Yeah, that's why we're looking for options. We're trying to get more efficient on our side because we've got the quarry down while we're shooting,
Right.
securing the area. We need to get that moving as smoothly as we can.
Okay. Can you give me your contact info and I will get back with you tomorrow? Because I want to check with another department and make sure that they would take those calls if for some reason you can't get through.
Just a
I don't, yeah, as a backup, if that would work. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with those words that stay on the wires? I move that we adjourn the meeting, or I can't do that, but. Okay. Our next. Okay. All right. No other commissioners' input, and our next meeting will be November 9th, 2020 at 6 p.m. here at City Hall.
Yeah.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
We can't do that. So,
Will somebody move to adjourn the meeting?
second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. The meeting is is now adjourned. That's what it says.
Yeah, we've, okay, thanks for the report. That's why I'm reading anytime. Look at the report later. I'm trying not to answer emails, but I'm pretty much gonna get that Yeah. So what I'm trying to establish